Top of the morning to you. It feels so good to get outside again. Have you ever had one of those moments where three simple words completely shattered everything you believed about yourself and your future? Where, in an instant, dreams you thought were buried forever suddenly exploded back to life? That's the power of a true paradigm shift. And it's not just part of transformation, it is the transformation. I want to share one of the most profound paradigm shifts in my life. For years, I carried a belief that felt like a death sentence to my dreams. Coming out of sexual addiction and the wreckage of my choices, I had convinced myself my sin is so bad, I can never be a father or even a good husband. This wasn't just a passing thought, it was my core identity. I had buried every dream of my marriage and family so deep, I convinced myself they didn't exist anymore. The shame was so overwhelming that I couldn't even imagine a woman wanting to build a life with me, let alone trusting me with children. Then I met Leah. She was divorced with 3 kids, had a psychology degree, and somehow I found the courage to share my whole story with her. All of it. The addiction, the recovery, the shame, the fear, everything I had kept hidden behind my perfectionist mask. I braced myself for rejection, for confirmation of what I already believed about myself. Instead, she looked at me and said 3 words that changed everything. That explains it. That explains it. No disgust, no rejection, not confirmation of my unworthiness, just understanding. She said those 3 words in reference to my personality quirks, my perfectionism, my desperate effort to maintain and build my mask. With her background in psychology and now full understanding of my story, she simply said, that explains it. Now you can move on and be whole and complete. In that moment, it was like opening up a full can of ideas and dreams that had been buried, never to be explored again. Suddenly I could see myself as her husband. I could envision being a father to her 3 kids. I could dream about the family we might build together, which turned out to include 2 more children of our own. This story illustrates the most powerful truth about transformation. Paradigm shifts aren't just part of the process, they are the entire process. A paradigm shift is when your fundamental way of seeing reality completely changes in an instant. This is what we've been building through in our Transformation Breakthrough Seeds series. We've talked about moving toward what you want instead of away from what you fear. We discussed from being an effect to being at cause. We explored how perception is projection. All of these prepare us for the moment when everything clicks and we see with completely new eyes. Here's what makes a paradigm shift different from just changing your mind or learning new information. When you change your mind, you're still operating from the same fundamental framework. You're just rearranging the furniture in the same house. But a paradigm shift is like discovering you've been living in a tiny little shack when there's been a mansion available to you all along. For kingdom family leaders, paradigm shifts often happen around your deepest shame and greatest fears. Maybe you've believed I'm not qualified to lead because of my past, or successful men don't need help or community, or I have to choose between business success and being present for my family. The enemy wants to keep us trapped in old paradigms because he knows that one shift in perspective can unlock decades of buried potential. But God specializes in paradigm shifts. Think about Paul on the road to Damascus, or Peter realizing the gospel was for Gentiles too. or the disciples understanding that death couldn't hold Jesus. A true paradigm shift in your kingdom family journey looks like this. Instead of seeing your struggles as disqualifications, you recognize them as your credentials. Instead of viewing your brotherhood as weakness, you understand it as God's design for strength. Instead of believing you have to choose between blessing yourself and serving others, you realize that proper self-stewardship multiplies your kingdom impact. When that paradigm shifts, you don't just think differently, you become different. The old limitations simply don't exist in your new reality. Dreams you buried come roaring back to life. Possibilities you never imagined suddenly become your next steps. Right now, I want you to identify one limiting belief you've carried about yourself as a husband, father, or leader. Write it down exactly as you think it. Now ask yourself, what if this belief isn't true? What if my story, my struggles, my journey actually qualify me for something greater? Don't just think about it. Write down what would be possible if that old paradigm was completely false. Let yourself dream again. Open that can of buried possibilities. The paradigm shift might not happen instantly, but it starts with being willing to question what you've accepted as unchangeable truth about yourself. This is one of my most common coaching phrases. Is it possible that isn't true? You be blessed. If you're ready to experience the paradigm shift that can unlock your full potential as a kingdom family leader, I'd love to connect with you. Sometimes we need other men to help us see beyond our limiting paradigms. Schedule a conversation at brian.chat.